Hello and welcome to Access All Areas of Send, the podcast. Today I'm joined by Tracey Huggins. She's been on our podcast before, but she's a parent first and foremost to three wonderful children and four dogs, a carer, a wife, a proud northerner, a counsellor, the CEO of Choice and Wellbeing Service, a parent care and mental health and wellbeing organisation, advocate, a blogger. But one thing she's often mistaken for, but is not, is superhuman. And I said last time that I don't agree with that. You are definitely superhuman. Um, and so today you've come not just as the CEO of Choice and Wellbeing, because we talked about the beautiful rainbow guides last time, but in your other role as a therapist and a counsellor. And today we're going to talk around mental health and how that's from a parent carer point of view or a carer, it is tricky. No one talks about it. It's very sort of I'm fine, and people tend to be stoic, but actually it can be an extremely lonely place to be. And so I'm really pleased that there are people like you who is a carer but also a counsellor and sees both sides. So let's talk about you. And let's talk about mental health and carers, because it's such an important subject, isn't it? And like you said before we pressed record, with everything that's going on at the moment, it's such an impertinent place to be, isn't it? That we need to talk about and accept that actually being a carer is hard work. It can affect your mental health. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a significant piece of work that needs to be done and never really discussed. I think one of the reasons that I definitely created Choice was because of my own experience of going to the doctors and really struggling and being prescribed SSRIs, antidepressants, whichever way you prefer to describe them, because to them, I ticked all the boxes. I ticked the boxes for depression or low mood or, somebody who just was struggling with their mental health. And the reality of it is, I think although my mental health was impacted, it was situational. So there was so much going on at the time. And I didn't have somebody there to guide me through what was going on and also look after or help me to learn tools to look after my mental health. And that became the main focus. And hopefully, in the future, that's where Choice will go. It'll go to a point where we are challenging whether SSRIs need to be diagnosed or whether they need to try some support first, because we have a lot of parents that do are prescribed prescriptions to help with their mental health, and sometimes they find them even worse than being off them. So I think it's very important to have the conversation around mental health and the situations that we are in that impact our mental health and what the outcome of that is. And sometimes it's not always beneficial to go and speak to the doctor. Sometimes it is beneficial to go to your local organisation and to get some situational help. And things like the things that are going on at the minute with the white paper, that is significantly impacting parents' mental health. The fear of the unknown is one of the things that start from the day that you're told that their child is, having additional needs. If you take that into consideration, then everything else on top of it, and then somebody comes and moves the goalposts, you instantly become in either fight, flight, or freeze mode. And I know from experience of speaking to parents since the white paper came out in February that that's how it's become. There is a lot of parents that are nervous about what's to come and scared about what's to come, scared about the uproar of having to get to where they are now and then changing again. A lot of my work is around disenfranchised grief. So the grief that isn't socially acceptable. So it is the grief of having a child with additional needs that you didn't expect to have, and the fact that their, trajectory of life has just changed instantly. And that's very difficult, but not only for them, but for us as well. And then the other is system generated trauma. So the trauma of being bounced backwards and forwards from different services, looking for the right help, the right support, the right diagnosis, the right waiting list, and and it significantly impacts not just them, but the child as well, which then parents are at loss because they can't get them on the CAMHS list quick enough. They can't get them some support. So we try and help with both where we can. And then the third thing that we see the most is suicidal ideation, which is terrible and scary in this day and age, because we are at a point where parents are just pushed to the brink and they're not quite sure how to come back from that. And then they also feel guilty for feeling that, which is terrifying. So this is where we're at now with parent carers. This is something that I've known all along, being somebody that has struggled with their mental health. But to see such a big community almost crumble to its knees is terrifying for what the future looks like. So I think there is definitely needs to be more conversations about mental health. There definitely needs to be, if you are changing the pathway, the goalpost, whatever you would like to call it. I hate the term pathway, to be fair. Pathway means that you lead somewhere, like there's a gate at the end and it never ever is, like it's an ending. But if you're going to lead somebody somewhere and you're going to change the path that they're going down, you need to consider the impact of that. Have to. It's impossible not to.
It definitely is, and I absolutely hear you around pathways. I also hate the word journey. Can't stand it. But I can't think of any other words that is better than that. But you're right, isn't it? I mean, if we go to the far side of it around the suicide, we are seeing a rise, I think, in parent carers who have reached their absolute limit. And there is stories in the media around people as well, parents who cannot handle anymore, so they kill their children. It is a desperate and horrible place to be. And you're right as well. The first, I personally have had conversations with health professionals over the exact same thing. The stress. And the first thing they tell me to do is to be put on citrulline. And for me, that's not for me personally. It might be right for others, but for me personally, that's not where I needed to be. That's not what I wanted to be. And there is this dark side of being a parent carer, isn't there? Of the loneliness, the fact that you surround yourself in a tribe. Some get it, some don't, and it can be just even with some friends, it is an incredibly lonely place to be. And we definitely need to talk more about like mental health, and it's okay to talk about this mental health, because you're right, it's not the child in front of you that's the problem. People say, oh well, special children go to special parents. If I hear that one more time, I will personally slap somebody. But it is okay to actually stand there and go, do you know what? Today I just need some time out. Today I just need 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, and try and do it guilt-free. That's the problem, isn't it, as well? We feel guilty when we do that.
And you've just hit the nail on the head. It is 9 times out of 10 other people that put an expectation on us. I have a massive issue with toxic positivity. I do. If I meet another parent carer who is like, happy-go-lucky and is bouncing off the walls, straight away as a counsellor, I'm like, what is behind that? Because there is this, everybody has this little box in the back of their minds that they store their traumas or their issues or their deep dark worries, and sometimes they just spill out, and that's okay. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to listen. I'll sit there all day. But then if you are padlocking that box, and you are, at some point it will get out, and it will terrify the people around you, not just you. And this comes down to, this is why I hate coffee mornings. I am totally against coffee mornings to a degree, because I find that that's the perfect place for toxic positivity. it is a breeding ground for toxic positivity. We will all sit there and go, oh, how did you sleep last night? Oh, yeah, I slept back. Oh, you know what they're like up until such and such pace, and I was doing this, and then, and such. But, you do what you do. It is what it is. All of these, like, surface level scenes that just you walk away. And if you're that person that is struggling that day and you've walked away and gone, do you know what it is? All of them have got all of that going on, and I've got this going on, and how daft am I to worry about it? It could be worse. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves, is when somebody says it could be worse, or, like, at least it isn't as bad as, etc. Because we as parent carers are so okay, and we shouldn't be, with people, going, oh, bless, or terrible, aren't there? And making little snarky comments, and not one of us feel like we can turn around and go, yeah, you're right. Special kids are given to special parents. So how's it feel not to be special? And to whip back, like, and to give something back, because we're seen as, they're just being nice. They're just being, and it's not that they're not. It's the fact that they feel that they have to say anything at all says more about them than it does us. If they're uncomfortable around my child, why are they uncomfortable? Why do they feel a need to make a comment at all? I could be on my knees and somebody makes a comment, and I would then leave wherever we are. And I have done this before and gone home with her because Delilah was completely oblivious to what was going on. But to me, it ruined my day, because it was just another person reminding us how much my life had significantly changed, and I was trying my best but still felt I was on my knees. So I have a massive issue with toxic positivity.
No, but it's a good thing to talk about, isn't it? Because I think most of us that have got special needs kids have experienced this at some point. In fact, as you were talking, I could think of at least 20 times that I've experienced that. And it really is annoying. And I even experienced it very recently, actually, at the weekend, with a friend's daughter. We were at a wedding, and she's got Down syndrome, and I've known her entire life. And there was this one wedding guest who talked to her like she was 8. She's 26.
Yep.
It's so annoying. And it's because they just haven't had that experience, have they, of, you know the children are now adults, for a start off, and two, if you've not had a wealth of experience around these types of kids, then it's just all they crave is to be treated as normal as they possibly, they that's all they want. And then if you're talking to a 26-year-old who actually later on did some shots at the wedding because she can, it just looks silly, doesn't it, if you're talking to them like they're a little child. And also saying to parents, oh God, it must be so hard.
Yeah.
Isn't
Don't know how
parenting?
you do it. Don't
Yeah.
know how you do it. I used to say to people when they would say, I don't know how you do it. I used to say I tried leaving it on somebody's doorstep, but they kept bringing it back, because it's that thing of, like, if you feel like it's okay to say something to me, I should feel, and it did take a while to get to the point where I felt like I could respond, but I had to be able to respond. It is my right to respond. Stupid stupid questions deserve stupid answers sometimes. And that to me felt like a stupid question. It was like me turning around saying, well, you've got a 4-year-old. Why are you still parenting this 4-year-old? Can you not pass it off to somebody else? Looks like he's been a bit, full on today. And her response would be, oh, yeah, 'cause he's 4. So, and I would have this all of the time, to the point where it would isolate me more, because I would not want to go places. I have a memory of taking Delilah to South Lake Safari, and this was not even that long ago. I think it was only like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was at the gate, so they were allowed to feed the lemurs, like the monkeys. And she'd went in with these group of kids, because they'd just take them in a few at a time. And one of us were allowed to go in with her. So Dan was just standing in the background, letting her do her thing. And all she had to do was, like, put this rubber glove on, put her hand out, they came to her, ate the food, no, significant. She didn't deserve an award for it or anything. And I was standing with the dad of one of the other children, and I was just taking a video, and I caught it on video, and I was just taking a video of my child feeding lemurs, and he turned around and he just looked at us randomly. He was like, "Oh, bless her," and I just was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "Oh, she's doing it canny, ain't she?" And I was like, "Why wouldn't she be? Why didn't you comment on the other five children that were in there?" And I can remember coming away and thinking like that was my end point of like, right, I am not allowing people to say things to me anymore, because she was just being Delilah, just feeding the lemurs like every other child in there. And it was so significant to me, and it stuck with us forever. And to the point where when I was blogging, I would blog about it, and I would, hopefully support other parents to say it's okay to not, don't be nasty, don't be, rude or inappropriate, but you are entitled to respond if you want to. And that response is warranted, because you can't go until your child is however age listening to this, because it will destroy your mental health for somebody else to constantly feel sympathy in a situation that doesn't deserve sympathy. It's bonkers. Um, so yeah, I just brought it into my work, and then it informs most of the things I do.
And it's really important to say that, actually, isn't it, to other parent carers who will have for sure experienced that. They
Yeah,
will have. I don't know of any parent carers that don't experience something like that. And actually, it is okay to challenge back.
it
Like,
is.
they are saying something that there isn't any need for it to be said. And
No.
I think we're brought up, we're also British, so it's
Yeah,
like this hidden rule of don't be rude back.
yeah,
But actually, part of the education of other people is that they must understand that actually some of the things, where it came from a genuine place of they feel that they need to say something, and actually in their heads it's okay.
yeah,
Actually, we need to challenge back and go, it's not.
yeah,
It is an opinion.
yeah,
Keep your opinions to yourself. If you've got, if you wanted to say something, go, oh, she's really enjoying that experience. That's
yeah,
fantastic. That's what they needed to say.
yeah.
Not, oh, she's doing okay, isn't she? Because how does she know, how do they know what condition she has,
Mm.
what she can do and can't do? Like, it's just weird. I feel
Yeah,
like, why would you speak out about that when you know nothing about them?
yeah.
You don't know what condition they have. Like, I just find it quite incredible, actually.
I think it was just came down to the fact that I was stood beside him, just taking a video. And it is that as adults, not very good at talking, just in general. And it has to take a certain type of person to just be able to chat to anybody without malice and without any sort of prejudice or anything like that. Um, and I think when it comes to these situations, if it was another parent, he probably wouldn't have bothered with them, because all of their kids were doing the same. But because it was myself and Delilah, I felt he just felt uncomfortable, like he should say something, and that's where it comes from 9 times out of 10. It is just the fear of the unknown, and I can give allowances for that at times, depending on the situation, but there is times where I'm not going to allow it as well, because my child being there should not allow you, a grown adult, to feel uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, you need to check yourself and to understand why. And as a counsellor, I'm also not going to sit here and educate you on why you feel the way you feel. Like, I can spot it now a mile away, but it's not my place. And I have a big problem with, educating the masses around disability, although I do it as a job as well. Although I do it, but I do have a problem with it, because I feel like as parent carers, it's always our problem to educate people on disability, and it shouldn't be. It should be, you know, as wide as understood as racism, as hate crime, as everything else, because I feel like we take on that burden of us, and then we're the ones that actually walk away and go, oh my God, what did I say too much? Did I overshare? And then again, we get in our heads and it impacts our mental health. So for Delilah's 14 years of her life, I've been put in uncomfortable situations. I've had, terrible things said to me. I've had people ask stupid questions like, she's had hip surgery, does that mean she can walk now? And, going to have a normal life. And I say, well, her life is pretty normal for her. And I have had, my other children coming from school upset because their friends or somebody had said something nasty about Delilah to them and used it against them. And all of this will significantly impact them just as much as me. Meanwhile, Delilah's singing to Rihanna at the minute, Umbrella, which is absolutely delightful when you're stuck in the house because it's 30 odd degrees outside and you listen to Rihanna on repeat. She is oblivious, and it's collateral beauty in the sense of it's beautiful to look at her oblivious and unknown. And I will take the shots. I will take, everything that comes at us. But should I be taking it? That is the question. Because I don't believe that any of us should be.
And that's really, important actually, isn't it? That we are the ones that are taking the hits for our children, as it should be. But it does get to the point of, how much do we take before we snap? And I think as well with services being on their knees, parents asking for help and support. Mental health is one of the probably the most trickiest things to get support for, especially if you're a carer, because there's no like physical signs really, unless the person is being very open and honest, which doesn't happen as often as we would like, because it's built within us as a parent to be that. And I said at the very beginning, the stoic, I've got this, I was given this, I love my child endlessly, this is what I have to do, this is what needs to happen. But actually, I think if more parents and carers stopped for a second and were honest with themselves, that actually more would need more support for their mental health than we actually care to sort of work out, wouldn't we? And you're exactly right. What with Delilah in particular, she is, herself. What is normal for Delilah, that is her beautiful self, as she said. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in your house if she's singing Umbrella on repeat. But again, it's that dark, warped sense of humour that we develop, isn't it? And you and I can, I mean, I've never met Delilah, but you and I can have that conversation because it's exactly how you're feeling and it's resonating with you. Bless you. I wouldn't want to be in your house with this heat and that.
Oh, trust me, I do not want to be in my house either.
But again, I'm not saying that coming at it for being, oh, this is the thing, isn't it? And it's such a fine line between being condescending and not. And, whilst I might not have ever met her, you and I have got that sort of balance where we can have a bit of a joke. But there's the other person who is trying to be well-meaning and is saying something for the sake of saying something would actually probably be horrified with that comment. But that's the difference, isn't it? It's the honesty, and it's the fact that I'm not judging her at all, and I'm not feeling sorry for her either.
That's the thing, and this is what I used to always go back to when people used to like tilt the head and do like oh bless, and I used to come back to this every time, and I used to say, why the hell are you blessing my child? Like, my child gets everything that she wants. My child will walk into the Disney store when she was younger, cost me like 60 quid for a t-shirt or a teddy bear that she was never going to look at again, and then get to the front, and then the woman would would like fill her a goodie bag of freebies because she looked disabled. Now, as much as I am against, the comments and things that people make, my child rode that train for the best that she could. Do you know what I mean? She would get freebies all over. We went to Harrods in London and she got freebies. We went to the toy shop, she got freebies. Like, my child is just, she's cute looking at the time. I mean, she's getting a little bit older now, so she just looks and smells like a teenager, which is fair enough. But, like she was cute, she was in a little pink wheelchair, she had a fluffy bag, and people would just see her and go, oh, bless, let's give her a freebie. Delilah was like buzzing with this. Delilah was over the moon because she was like, Mum, I didn't care why they're giving us these freebies, I'm getting freebies. When she was a little bit older and we started having conversations, she was like, it's not my fault that I'm disabled and people just want to give us stuff and I'm just going to take it. And I completely agree with it, because if they're feeling uncomfortable and feel like they need to give something to Delilah to make themselves feel better, Delilah's more than willing to take it, and who wouldn't? And that's the thing. Like, I think when it comes to the kids, and I always say this, like, kids to other kids are not the problem, it's always the adults. And 9 times out of 10, they're either overly friendly, as in giving Delilah things for free, which is lovely for Delilah. I mean, me, on the other hand, I would love a free Long Island iced tea now and again, just for the crap that I put up with, or listening to Rihanna all sudden day long. Feel free to throw something my way. But if she's happy and content, and it always comes back to this, if she's happy and content, then that's fine. The problem that we have sometimes is just adults, and adults will pull children away from Delilah's chair if they're being curious, and they will, stop them from asking questions. And I don't think they're realizing the impact, because they're now breeding another culture of young adults and adults that are going to be uncomfortable in disabled people's presence and then sit there and go, oh, bless. So we need to stop breeding another generation of uncomfortable adults and start talking more. And that needs to be conversations as us as parent carers as well, like today, talking about mental health, talking about how it impacts us, and being frankly very honest about it and saying, I don't want you to bloody stop and talk to us about my child because you've spotted us in a wheelchair. I don't want to have this. It's not my place to educate you. However, if your child came running up to me and wanted to ask questions, don't pull them away, because that's how we make a change. That's how we stop other parents in the future feeling the way I've felt and sometimes still feel now.
And it's really funny because I was thinking in my head around the word disadvantaged, and you started that line of conversation with exactly that. So when I first started in parent carer land, which is over 10 years ago now, it's actually probably nearer 12. I remember being stood in my local county council. They're not a county council anymore, but they were a local county council. And I remember this very lovely counsellor, slightly older generation, and he was talking around special needs about disadvantaged children. And I pulled him up on it and I said, can I just stop you? My son is anything but disadvantaged. There is a difference between having a disability and being disadvantaged, and exactly what you said at the very beginning, your daughter didn't want for anything. Like, let's just be clear. And there are some people as well who get a little bit icked by, say, children in need program, because it talks about disadvantaged and special needs in the same bag, and actually they are poles apart. Like, you can have children who are disabled who are definitely not disadvantaged, and then you have some that could be both, but then you also have got children who have no special needs but also fit the disadvantaged camp. And I know that's really complicated, but you're right. Like, my son did not want for anything. Like, that is not disadvantaged. Was he disadvantaged in a classroom? Possibly, without the right support. But it's such a hard, do not think for 1 second when you see a child with a visible disability, or if you know a child has a hidden disability, that they're anyway disadvantaged. Because the only people I know that would make a child with needs disadvantaged, apart from if you're in a really sort of very, very low income, right? And we're not going to talk about that, but you're right. The only people that would make my child disadvantaged is other adults. And those conversations. And I come from a background where I went to school with somebody in a mainstream secondary, well, actually mainstream primary, because he was in a primary school, who had Down syndrome, and that was really unheard of in the 70s. But it really taught us a lot as kids. And then that has stayed with me as I go into adult. As a teenager, I hung around with kids, with other kids. I did like a sort of work placement, if you like, whilst I was still at secondary school, which I did for a whole year in a special needs school. I think it was always in my destiny to work with these kids or be a parent to these types of kids. And thank God that there's parents like you and I and others who do this every day to not to educate anybody else, because really, come on, they should be educating themselves. Quite frankly, but it's good that we've got our that our kids and others like them have us in their sphere, because otherwise, what's left is really tricky for them to manage, and they shouldn't be managing it. Like they should. That is one thing that they shouldn't be doing.
I always say like I am a walking contradiction. I am a walking contradiction, because I am the person that says it's not my place to educate you while educating you. I am the person that says I'm not going to show up for this and then shows up anyway because I feel guilty about not showing up. And this is partly because it's who I am, but it's partly who I am because of Delilah. And I am sat in my office in my building that I pay extortionate price for because I'm ridiculous. But I'm here because of Delilah. I am helping other people because of Delilah. And don't get us wrong, Delilah tells plenty of people that as well, because that's who I've brought her up to be. I've brought her up to be somebody who can hold her own and to look after herself, because it's really important. But I'm not, I'm not daft enough to think that everything that we have now isn't because of Delilah, and the help that other people get is because of Delilah. And I think for anything, that's why I still continue to educate people. It is for Delilah, because when Delilah gets older, I need them to be understanding. I need to have had a say in that process. I need to have, had me 5 pence on that pathway. I need to have made sure that I've gave it my best of my ability. And the thing is, and I always say this to parents, like, do not try to do what I do. Try and do what you need to do for you and for your family, because I am a weird creature. I will stay up all night and write PowerPoints, and I will do stuff but that's because that's how I manage with my life. If you manage by taking your child to school, filling out some forms, doing school run, fitting in an hour's work if you work, and then coming home, picking them up, and then trying to rest, that's you doing your 100%, and that's what we need to focus on. It's about, we live in a world where comparison is the thief of joy. And if we compare ourselves to the ability of somebody else, we will then literally internally destroy ourselves, not usually externally, but internally. So we will, and I've been there. I've sat on social media when there was proms. I've sat on social media when it's days like we have at the minute where it's sunny and they're taking their kids to the farm or to the park and they're on the swings and riding bikes and things like that. And I have been there, and I have, and I'm not ashamed to say it either. I have wished that Delilah had the abilities of everybody else. And that's okay to say, because that's my truth. It doesn't take away anything from Delilah. I absolutely love her, and I would go at the ends of the earth for her. Do I wish that she had some element of normality? Yes. Is that for me more than her? Probably, because I am the person that's viewing these things. And this is what I always say about when I do any speech, or if I'm talking to people one-on-one, I always say Delilah is the drop in the ocean. Delilah is massively unaware of everything that's going on with her, as is a lot of SEND children. And it doesn't just come down to the fact that usually their diagnosis allows them to be very selfish, which is, sometimes a blessing. But it's also the fact that as a parent, I have protected her. So I have ensured that I can control all of the variables. Now, by controlling all of her variables, mine have gone askew and they are, running around like ducks. And one of them is in the back of a police car and, one's hanging off the ceiling. However, at times when I have the capacity, I will get them all lined back up and we'll have a good word with ourselves and then it'll just run riot again. But that is what it is to be a parent carer. You're never ever in a place where you can have everything together. And it's okay. Like we need to stop. And this is where it comes back to coffee mornings. We need to stop being in a position where we're pretending that it's everything is tickety boo. And I'm not saying that we need to face everything in a very negative light. I'm just saying we need to also be honest. So we can say, yes, things are good at the minute. I haven't, had much, restless nights and I haven't done this. But we also need to be very honest about the other side as well, because it impacts so many people. I remember one of my first coffee mornings sitting there and looking at this woman who, had a 5-bed property and she had 2 carers coming in to help look after her child and she had transport to school and she was like all done up, like her hair was all done and her nails were all done. And I remember sitting there going, I'm never coming back here again. Because I feel like your struggle and my struggle are completely different. Like you have 2 carers come in, like what have you got to complain about? But this was at a point where I was still very much, them are them and I am who I am, and there was no understanding of the what could be behind. But I think in these coffee mornings and things like that, there should be space for open conversation.
Sure, and also self-preservation, because what that's she was lucky, I would say, to have that support. Not everybody has that available to them, and it's okay to not want to go anywhere and just
Yeah,
stay home. It's okay to take a night, where you've got friends, and you go out with your
yeah,
friends if you want to, if you're able to, to stop with the guilt. I think parenting guilt is happening more and more and more. I think, I love social media because it's a way of spreading, the word, or some
yeah,
advice, or make something relative. But it also has a darker side where people are looking at what is deemed as perfection on
yeah,
TikTok or YouTube, and actually it might be 2 minutes of perfection and the rest is mayhem. But we only see that 2 minutes of perfection or a 45-second TikTok on it. And I think that's what parents also need to understand. That actually just take a breath, just take a moment, and we are not all in the same boat.
well, I hear that
We,
saying,
you know, we're all in the same storm, but we're not
Yeah,
in the same boat.
yeah,
And you know, every some might have a super yacht,
hmm,
like your mate with 2 carers.
yeah,
The rest of us might be literally in a barrel, and we've picked up a branch as
yeah,
an oar, in the aim of swimming against the tide, or being sort of floating against the tide.
yeah,
And again, that's okay. Let's just,
yeah, yeah.
it doesn't have
It's
to be
that's the
perfect.
thing. It's all okay, and the you know the the judgment of others is okay because we learn to get better and we learn to get more understanding and we learn to ask questions. And that's what it came down to. That was my first, so, my first impression of somebody. It takes 7 seconds to make an opinion of somebody and 1 second to change it. And that's important. And it's important, as much as take everything I say as a pinch of salt because I do contradict myself, but as much as I dislike coffee mornings, I do believe that they have their place. I do, because you have to go, you have to, you know, if it wasn't for coffee mornings, I wouldn't have met some of the people that I've met along the way, even the people that I've learned lessons from. So even the people that I particularly wouldn't spend any more time with. But then they've also taught me a lesson of, right, okay, so there's these types of parents out there as well as the well-meaning ones. And there's, we've all known kind of rumors about somebody who does it for the money and does it for this. And all I ever think is, if you're doing this for any sort of compensation, you're an absolute fucking idiot. Like, there is probably something else you could be doing that gets more money and more sleep. Like, what? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So it comes back to that. You take everything with a pinch of salt. You've got to go in with just open mind. You've got to be able to understand that your situation is your situation. And at the early days, that's not easy to do. And that's also okay. You can make mistakes. I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to just, you know, understand everything, know everything, believe everything, trust everybody. And the reality of it is, the only person you need to truly trust is your gut. That's it. If you think you're in a wrong place, you're in a wrong place. If you feel like you're in the right place, if you feel like you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong, you just have to trust your gut.
And I think, I would never make a millionaire out of this. In fact, I support families and I do it for free because I just don't believe in charging families for my, I say expertise. I use that term very loosely. I'm still learning. And there are some people out there that do make quite a lot of money on the back of, I would say, the misery of families. And I find that really difficult as a parent, as a carer. I mean, each to their own, because I suppose some people have got to make money. But it's really hard, isn't it, for families who believe, even if they're faced with what they would term as a professional. I never use the term professional in any of the conversations I have. They're practitioners.
Yeah.
Because we ourselves are the professional of our children. We know exactly who they are. We've gone through the bad times, the even worse times, but also the good times.
Yeah.
And that, we've got that expertise. Um, but we need to shift that power conversation. We need to call out those people who are rude to our kids, who are demeaning, who are patronising, because if we don't, we're never going to change that cycle, are we? And exactly what you said earlier on, the children are listening to their adults, their parents, whoever it is, grandparents, it could be an aunt and an uncle, and they're gonna think that is normal to do, and we really need to change that narrative.
My
Otherwise,
one of my favorite sayings ever, sorry, is nothing changes if nothing changes. And that is the crux of it. And that stems from everything you think about in life. So if you're unhappy, I can't change it for you. I can be there while you change it, but you have to take the lead. And it's the same with everything. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So as a community, if we continue to allow adults to talk to us in this way and allow it to impact our mental health, then, nothing will change. We need to get to a point where we stand up for proper support. Like, being registered as a carer in a GP practice isn't enough. It doesn't get you any perks. It doesn't get you any benefits. There is no, help in the moments where we need it. And we need to change the narrative quite quickly for what is coming as well for the future, because my service is packed. It is. And I will have parents in my building all week long, and I will say the same conversation time and time again. And the amount of individuals diagnosed through our service with burnout is ridiculous. And that is something that is mental health. It's physical health, and it significantly impacts how a person functions. And then, if that person is on their knees, who's then functioning for their child? And this is the bit where mental health needs to be the bigger conversation. Like, my child does not go out of bed unless I get her out of bed. So you cannot send me letter if I've not been able to get her out of bed to take her to school to then be miserable in school, to then pick her up again, because her being miserable at school and me not being able to do anything about it is then burning me out. And it's a cycle, and you will find that as a parent carer, you will go through multiple cycles, through multiple things, through, we always talk about the fight. And I always say to parents and practitioners that if you imagine it, it's a bit like a stress ball. So when you get a stress ball, it's lovely, it's new, it has no creases in it. That is day one of being a parent carer. Over time, that stress ball is creased. It is a little bit more squishy than it was originally, as in it's softer now. And there's bits picked out of it, the creases are torn. It's still functioning. It's still functioning for its duty of a stress ball, but it ain't half damaged. And what we need to do is be able to squeeze it a little bit less. Parents are at the point now where we are, and I said this to Anita and Maureen recently, like I've never seen being a parent carer as bad as I have recently. And that's just because everything is shifting under our feet. Everything is changing. The services are more backed up than they've ever been. They are stretched to their limit. Nobody's caring for us. And to be frank, not many people care to ask either. And if we don't start talking about burnout and the realities of managing everything we manage, and especially for, the people in the big seats, if they don't start listening, they are going to end up paying out way more money. They're going to pay out more money for more mental health services. They're going to pay out more money in SSRIs because that is the go-to. I couldn't imagine that we would save the government and the health service a lot of money when it came to SSRIs if they just listened. If they just had somebody like you or I working in the surgery to be able to see if it was situational or whether it was medicinal that they needed, whether they needed structured support or whether they needed to be on a pathway for mental health support. Because I think it's just all kind of chucked in a pot and it just gets blurred and there's nobody there to unpick it. So we need to get to a point where we shout a little bit louder, we ask for help a little bit more, and we're being very open about the fact that, yes, it's okay not to be okay, but in a situation where we didn't ask to be in the first place, we should be entitled to some more support.
I absolutely agree. And anybody listening to this podcast who sees a glimmer of themselves within this, go and speak to somebody. This is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's the opposite. And if anybody tells you that actually get on with it, pull your big girly pants or pull your socks up or man up, please, you have my permission to give them a slap. That is the worst thing that you can say to somebody who is feeling like they're on their knees. Do not feel guilty either. It is perfectly right and normal. Well, it's not normal, but it's perfectly normal that if you are being pushed to your absolute limit, that something has got to give. And do not think that actually you are a bad parent or a bad support to your young person with needs, because you definitely are not.
Yeah.
And I will be putting links into the bio of this in the notes of this pod episode, because it is imperative, so imperative, that you get the support you need. And I'm always saying to parents, and I am the worst person for this, I don't follow it, and it's the airplane analogy. You're told on an aircraft that if you're with somebody you care with, that you're caring for your kids or whatever, husband, because mine's pretty useless sometimes, but he's lovely. No, he's lovely. I've been together for 30 years. He'll probably kill me for saying that. But he wouldn't know what to do in a crisis. And so they say to you, you put your mask on first, then you put your mask on your kids and anybody else that you're near. And that's because without that, you can't function. You can't survive. And I'm the worst for it at times. I'm one of these that, again, you and I, northern women,
Yeah.
You don't get any stronger. And it's just an acceptance that you just plow on, and actually no, don't, because it will come for you eventually, won't it?
It will. It will. And whether it's today, tomorrow, has been, it can come back, and it fluctuates as well. So sometimes you are okay. You're okay with the comments. You're okay with the load. And sometimes you just won't be. And that's also okay. But when you're not, speak to somebody, because it's really important that you get it off your chest. And I'm not a massive fan of, like, therapeutic writing and note keeping. But if that's what works because you don't want to tell somebody else, write it down, put it in a space that is safe. And, always remember, and this is something that I tell everybody, it's not you, it's the load. You weren't built to, as much as people tell us that we were built to have special kids, we weren't. We just had kids that were different. So it's not us. We weren't, we're not broken. We're not difficult. We're not asking too much. It's just the load of carrying it all. And sometimes that load will feel too heavy, and it's okay to put it down sometimes. Put it down in a coffee morning, put it down when you go to the shops, stick some music on. I'm a massive fan of music therapy. If you're in the car and you, like me, used to be an emo kid, whack some Blink 182 on. Scream from the top of your lungs. Stick Celine Dion on if that's your bag. Like, that 5 minutes from going from one place to the next is your 5 minutes. Take it while you've got it. And you will find that, and I always tell clients this, you will find that that song that was on your playlist all the time when you were 14, that's the song. Because 14 was probably the last time you felt probably the most free. Go back there. It's okay to go back and then come back when you need to.
I mean, that's a really good tip. It's why I've got a glitter ball in my kitchen, actually. For that very reason. And even now my husband thinks I'm absolutely bonkers and just laughs when I'm in the kitchen with my speaker, which is a name of a girl, so I'm not going to say it because I've got one beside me and it'll set it off.
Yeah.
On full blast. I've never done the songs when I was 14, so I might look that up actually.
Yeah.
It's probably Wham because I'm of that age. But I often put that on whilst I'm in the kitchen cooking food, just for that release, because it's the endorphins, isn't it? And you exercise without even thinking about exercising. And when when health coaches say to parent carers, "Oh, join the gym, go out," you haven't got time for that. That's just another thing to add on
I
to
was
your
going to
load.
say, it's another thing to feel guilty about. That's what
It
it
is.
is.
It
Because I
is.
didn't get there this week, so now I feel guilty for not
Yeah.
going there. And don't get us wrong, like I could sit here and I could give hints and tips and things that can help. And instead, I've kind of went off on a tangent most of the talk. But I think what's really important is just to remember that what suits you, what suits you. So if it's something you used to do before, then take it back. Like, yes, you are a different person now. I've never met a parent carer that's the same person, unless it's a man. Now, this sounds really terrible, but if you're a dad and you went to work before and you still go to work now, you will find that your life hasn't significantly changed all that much. Now, this is probably very controversial. You probably get some mean comments about this, but I'm okay with it. The life might not have changed all that much. So if you are coming in from work and she is struggling or they are struggling, just mack a bloody cuppa. Like, just step in. Because what I've found, especially in my work for the last 3 years, is that 9 times out of 10, men feel lost. The dads feel lost. And they have a whole different significant, issues of their own around their mental health and why they feel the way they do. But 9 times out of 10, I feel like they don't know what to do to help. Make a cuppa. That's it. Start with that.
I agree, and I did an episode actually it's episode 1 of season 2, specifically with two dads, And interestingly, I put a shout out simultaneously for any parent carers at the beginning of this pod when I decided to do it. And I had quite a few women come forward and say, right, I'm ready, no men. And I specifically then asked for men because I think it's really important that we talk about men who may or may not be parent carers in the true sense of the word, as in they don't work or they work on a reduced workload in order to care for their family. And it's also worth noting that 80% of relationships that are with a child with a SEN child often break down, not because of the child, let me just say, but because of that load. And interestingly, when we did the pod episode with the dads, they said exactly the same. And they then took the decision to then step in, and the wife then went back to work, or their partner went back to work. And it was an eye opener for them. And they talked a lot about that actually, and again about their mental health. Because it's really important. And also, even if they're working, so my husband works, he works full time, and slightly oblivious, but he is autistic. But you know, it is a struggle for them. Like it's the guilt. You know, they go out to work to earn the money to pay for the house or pay for rent or whatever. But the guilt is still there. It's very much still there. And sorry, I was just going to say, as a woman, there have been times when I would say to him, you don't know what I've done. I know you've worked hard, but you don't know what I've done today. And you know, I probably got shot in the foot from the in-laws for that, because he does work hard. He works incredibly hard. He's probably one of the hardest working people I know. But equally, my thoughts, my processes, where I work part-time, but I'm also a carer, it's still a lot, and I still have to manage everything else. And so actually, he was great. He would accept that, but the in-laws didn't, because they thought I was demeaning him. And it's not that at all. And it's not like, it's like when you say, oh, I'm tired, and they say, I'm tired, and you play that I'm more tired game.
Yes.
It's not that at all. It's just the fact that you need to say sometimes how much it is, you know, and how much it's taken out of you. It's not, it's just that. And you're right, make each other a cup of tea, sit down for 2 seconds, or stand in the kitchen at the kitchen worktop with your cup of tea or a glass of wine or a beer or cider, whatever whatever you want to do, and just go, God, it was hard today. That's a start, isn't it?
It's a massive start. And you know, here's the thing. So women who are parent carers become the designated parent. They do. That we didn't choose that. It comes down to services, organisations, practitioners. They just believe that mums are there, and mums should be there because they birthed them, so it's their problem. Men didn't ask to, you know, the same. They didn't ask for this life. They're just going to plod on and do the best they can do. It all comes back to generational understanding of morals and ethics and who we're built up to be as a community and as, you know, a country, particularly as well, like you said, oh yeah, we are British, and because of this, we just fall in line. If you go against that, and mum goes to work and dad stays home, people are outraged, which is bonkers. But then that can lead a gap that just starts a crack in a relationship, and it can create a crack regardless of who has what role. And as long as we keep talking to each other and keep remembering why we were together in the first place, it can strengthen the relationship, and it can, you know, create an environment for real conversation. But you are going to have those times where you just want to hit him in the face because he's being too loud because you've been on the phone all day. He is going to have times where he doesn't want to hear you whinge about the system anymore because he might think that you're just putting more things on your plate that you don't need to put on your plate. We've all been there. But what's important is, like, if you have that partner that you lean on each other and that he's very open with how he's feel about the situation, because two things can always be true. You can both struggle and you can also both be happy together. And it goes with most things in life. Two things can be true. This can be the hardest job I've ever done, but it's also the most beautiful job that I've ever done. You know, I can wish that she had a different life, but I can also 100% enjoy and love the life that she's got now. Two things can be true. And I think if we remember that in all aspects, we can get through. I'm not saying survive nicely, but we can grit our teeth and get through.
I think so too. And like I say, I've been with my husband for 31 years, and we do laugh together, we do things, just the two of us. We're really lucky actually, we do go on holiday, just the two of us together. And it does make a difference. So you said, I know we're edging towards the close of this episode, but I just want to push and I'm sure people won't mind listening to an extended version. So you said about like tips, what is the most helpful thing, do you think, to any parent care, whether they're a woman or a man?
I think 100% is recognizing when you need help, without a doubt. That's always number one, recognizing when you need help. So whether that is if you, and don't get us wrong, it can creep up on you. So you might not even notice it's there. So if you are a little bit quieter than you usually are, if you are tireder than you usually are, if you obviously don't enjoy things like so if you usually enjoy singing in your kitchen with your disco ball on and you don't do that as much, that's a sign. If you are, avoiding people, particularly. So, if somebody sends you a text, 9 times out of 10, I can be bothered to reply. I'm very honest about it. However, I will reply at some point. They know that. I know that. However, if that text has been there for 4 days, there's something, wrong. If you are not able to remain patient with your child like you usually are, it's also a sign. So if you find that in actual fact their behaviours haven't changed, but you are feeling a little bit more grouchy, snappy than you usually are, this is also a sign. And these signs are really important. So they can be physical, they can be emotional, so like weeping a little bit more, or just feeling generally sad. Physical signs, aches, pains, fatigue, headache. So if you are starting to feel like just run down, we all know the signs of, being on our last legs and not being able to get back up. So if you've been like this for a few days, we could be creeping into a period of burnout or low mood. And the best way that we can look for it after ourselves is by recognizing it. Now, I'm not going to tell you to get in the bath, unlike some practitioners, because as much as having a bath is lovely, what's the likelihood that you'll actually be able to just sit there and empty your mind? So practicing self-care isn't about sitting in the bath, because let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear umbrella anyway, and you're not going to have a nice bath. So we always say like have micro rests. So a bit like what I was saying about in the car. So if you're in the car, sing to your favorite song or just put it on. Step one, find a song that you used to love, put it on, a little bit time for you. Or sit down with a cuppa, but don't pick your phone up. Like we were saying earlier, comparison is a thief of joy. So if you look on social media and everybody seems to have their crap together, that ain't going to help your mental health. Turn the app notifications off. So if it is coming and stemming from that feeling of not like you're doing enough, feeling guilty, feeling worried, turn notifications off on your apps. You can still go on, you can still have a bit scroll, but you'll be less likely to pick your phone up if the notifications are turned off. So having 5 minutes by yourself, if you can, even if it's in the car or the bus with your headphones in between journeys, and taking a moment without your phone, watching your favourite show. So if you have to binge watch 3 seasons of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, you can tell what I do when I'm sad. Um, and listen to them complain about their poxy bloody issues because, Prada bags and all this carry on, then that's what you have to do. That's okay. If you can get that opportunity, take it. Breathing techniques. Take 5 minutes to just breathe. I know that sounds really silly because we need to breathe all the time, but sit down, have 5 minutes, take 4 deep breaths, remind yourself that you're okay, that you're safe, that, we can do hard things and we just need to give ourselves a break sometimes. Use grounding techniques. So noticing 5 things that you can see. I think everybody has heard it before, but having these grounding techniques, and I always tell people, use the 15-second technique. Sit down, count to 15. If nothing's changed and the world hasn't ended, we're okay for another 15 seconds. And do it until the point where you feel comfortable. Do it till the point where your pulses slow down, until you feel calm, until you feel you can go back to the activity that you were doing before. It's important that you don't lose yourself in these techniques. Don't spend all of your time doing the techniques. Try living. Go for a walk. Do it while you're walking. Walk the dog. Go for a swim. Try and give yourself space to be able to do the things that you want to do. So, like I was saying, keeping yourself motivated, reducing the mental load, give it to somebody else. Give it to your partner. Oh, what, you've got 15 minutes break at work today. Class, you've got time to ring the school. Give it, pass the book if you need to. It's not a problem. It's nothing to be guilty about, nothing to feel guilty about, nothing to feel shameful for, to ask for help. Give it to somebody else. If you have local organisations around you like Choice, go and speak to them. Go and speak to your parent care forum. Go and be in a position where you can have that support by people who understand and get it. Go to a coffee morning, talk about the mental load, talk about how they, like I've said before, and that after the diagnosis, in there is a piece where you just give it to your family members and it just silently says, I need help. And then protect your energy, massive one. Toxic positivity, protect your energy the best you can. So if that is removing yourself from people's company, if it is not talking to that practitioner, because every time you talk to them, it raises your blood pressure, give it to somebody else. It's your energy. You're entitled to protect it. So choose the people that choose you. Be very picky about your tribe. Be picky about who you let into yours and your child's life, because guess what? You have the right to. You do not have to have anybody involved that you don't deem fit, that you don't deem as approachable or transparent or able to work with your family as a network. You have the right to say no and to rearrange appointments. Protect your energy, look after yourself, and then speak to somebody if you need to. And my inbox is always open.
That's a really important thing to end this episode on. Again, if you feel that you need to talk to somebody, I will put some links in the notes. Please do reach out. And it is important that you do that. You are just as important as the child that you're looking after. In fact, some would say more important, because without you, the child would struggle to do things. But please do reach out to any of us, and I will put some other links in the notes as well. Thank you, Tracey.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice.